Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Vanishing Hour. 'Tis I, Snow, and today I have a case for you coming from the high seas themselves. That's right, we are investigating the disappearance of Rebecca Coriam off the Disney Wonder cruise ship under some shady-ass suspicious circumstances, to say the least. Suspicious on Disney's end, suspicious on her friends, quote-unquote, and the crew members, and even suspicious on the investigators' end. Just a lot of unsavoriness I found when researching this case, and it's a fairly well-known case too. It's also made worse / intriguing for me based on the fact that I am deathly afraid of the ocean and cruise ships creep me the fuck out. So this would have to be something pretty close to the 7th circle of hell for me in regards to disappearing under strange circumstances scenarios. Just overall a whole lot of yuck and what the fuck's being thrown around today, so let's dig in. So to start, a little bit of sort of cliff notes into Bex's, because I'm going to call her Bex because that was her nickname, Bex's life. She was born March 11th, 1987, making her 24 years old at the time of her disappearance. She was born to Michael and Anne Coriam and was raised in Chester, England, along with her sister Rachel and her 2 foster brothers, whose names I don't know. I couldn't find it anywhere for some reason. She was described as an outgoing, energetic, mischievous, bright ball of sunshine. She was everybody's friend and had a real passion for physical activities and helping people. She studied sports science, volunteered for outdoor events through the British Army Cadets, and continued schooling in Maine in the U.S. at one point for about 4 months before returning home. By the time June of 2010 rolled around, Bex was off to interview for a Disney cruise position in London. She had a beefy resume to back up the fact that she would be perfect for this position, and you know what? Disney saw that and they were like, boom, hired. They sent her to Florida, I'm assuming Disney World, for training for this position, before sending her off to the Bahamas. Apparently, the Bahamas is where Disney likes to register their ships in order to avoid the hefty taxing in the U.S., which apparently is a common thing for all cruise ships, which is kind of shitty to me, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so Bex spends 4 months cruising the Bahamas and doing the crew member thing. After the 4 months, it is required that crew members have a few months off before they start a new contract. So Bex made it back home to Chester for the mandated 8 weeks and spent that time with family. When the 8 weeks were up, she received the news that she would be assigned as a crew member for the youth activities program on board the Disney Wonder cruise, based out of Los Angeles, California. The Disney Wonder traveled to all ports of call in the Mexican Riviera and the Panama Canal. Bex was completely stoked and set off on her way. During this time, she met a fellow crew member by the name of Tracy Medley, who was, quote, a self-proclaimed party girl, end quote, at the time. According to Tracy, her and Bex met one night at a crew party aboard the ship, and they instantly hit it off. There was an instant attraction, and they flirted the whole night. Eventually, this turned into a friendship, and this flirty friendship turned into a full-blown, physical affair. Tracy claims they were, quote, madly in love. However, Tracy had a little problem. She had a boyfriend named Devin. Devin also worked on the ship and was actually a bartender there. However, at the time of Bex's arrival on the ship, Devin was on shore leave and was back home with his family. Hence, Tracy and Bex's hooking up. Everyone who knew them said that they were a fiery couple. 2 very big personalities that were crazy about each other, but also kind of just crazy in general, and very explosive and dramatic. Bex, by most accounts, seemed to be the one in love, as opposed to Tracy, who seems like she was just hot girl summering the fuck out of this job. I just got the impression that they were on 2 completely different wavelengths. Bex wanted something more serious, and Tracy just wanted to fuck around and have fun. It's a shame, because that shit can really fuck you up. Been there, 0 out of 5 stars, wouldn't recommend. Anyway, poor Bex, I feel for her because that situation is just shit. Nobody wants to be in that. But at least during these few months Devin was gone, it seemed like for the most part things were going as well as they could for Bex and Tracy. Now, unfortunately, sometime in early 2011, Bex's grandpa passed away. When she got the news, she requested 2 weeks off so that she could head back home to Chester and be there for the funeral and to spend a little quality time with her family. Little did anyone know, though, that this was going to be the last time that Bex would come home, or that any of her family would see her in person again. So after the 2 weeks, Bex heads back to the Disney Wonder, and lo and behold, Devin is back from vacation, and he's there as well. This had to have thrown a big fat penis-shaped wrench into the equation for her, because not only was she battling with her girlfriend's flim-flammy commitment stance, but now the boyfriend had reinserted himself into the picture, and that was probably the last thing she wanted. Now, while Beck's family and some crew members that knew her state that Bex was her usual cheerful, outgoing self and didn't seem to be dealing with anything too detrimental to her happiness, Tracy paints quite a different picture. She says that Bex was on an insane emotional roller coaster constantly in the weeks and even days leading up to her disappearance. That they would talk for hours and hours about her emotional state and how she was struggling with a lot of personal traumas that stemmed from her childhood, and that she felt her family was not completely accepting of her being a lesbian. Bex had even confided in her shortly before going missing that she had contemplated suicide by jumping off the side of the ship, but was essentially ashamed at how weak she was for not being able to follow through with it. Now, again, this is according to Tracy, and she says that she did everything she could to reassure Bex that she was a good person, and that she wasn't weak, and yada yada yada. But I gotta ask myself here, if this woman that you so claim to be madly in love with is confiding in you about how worthless she feels and is having suicidal thoughts, why the fuck are you not seeking help for her? I mean, color me crazy here, but when my loved ones are struggling, I immediately am overcome with this sense of duty to help make it right any possible way that I can. Not just be like, oh, that sucks, dude, but hey, you're not a bad person. I mean, this just doesn't scream romance and love and, thought for your girlfriend's well-being. This sounds more like a half-ass friend who's using you for a booty call. Maybe that's just the picture that's been painted in the articles I read, because that's what I picked up on. But I feel like she definitely had a hand in painting herself into that picture. She didn't actually speak to the press about Bex's disappearance for a whole ass 6 years. Her reason being that she was, quote, protecting the character of a friend. Right. Sure. Anyway, on March 17th, 2011, Tracy says that Bex confronted her with her feelings and basically said, hey, I love you, but I feel like you're just using me to have fun and aren't taking me seriously. Tracy said that at this point, Bex was essentially saying, fuck this boat, I want off, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. Tracy says she did her best to talk her down from this heated situation and that it was just a lot to deal with and was too much at the time. A few nights later, on March 20th, 2011, shit flared up again. According to Tracy, Bex woke her up in the middle of the night and was just popping off. She was highly emotional and upset and was saying that she was mad at herself for being so weak and not being able to follow through on a suicide attempt of jumping overboard. Tracy says, again, that it was too much to deal with and that she told Bex she was crazy, which I'm pretty sure that's the last thing you're supposed to say to someone who is upset. That's just a complete dickish thing to say, in my opinion, and literally makes the situation worse. But Tracy said that Bex became so irate that it took her and 3 other people to calm Bex down and take her back to her cabin. Now again, this is all Tracy's account. I wish it was posted elsewhere by these 3 other crew members confirming this story. If it is, I wasn't able to find it, but I mean, their names were not even listed, and the investigation that takes place later certainly has a shit show going on, so I doubt it got to the point that they actually asked them and verified this. But we'll save that whole thing for later. But regardless, that just, it stands out to me, and I can't help but wonder if Tracy's full account is in actuality the full truth, or if it's some of, embellishments that she made to feed her narrative. But moving on, we are now up to the day before the disappearance, which is March 21st, 2011. The Disney Wonder pulls away from its Los Angeles port and begins its journey south towards Mexico. Bex, at some point during the day, logs onto Facebook and messages her parents to tell them that she purchased tickets to Disneyland Paris as a way of having a family vacation and that she will make sure to call them tomorrow. Sounds like some normal ass stuff to me, and overall, it's safe to say it was a pretty average day. Now, this is where it starts to get a little odd to me, considering the situation they had going on. But Bex, Tracy, and Devin all decide to meet up that evening at the crew bar and have some drinks. Eyewitnesses from that bar saw the three of them having a chill ass night, tossing back the drinks and just having a relaxed time. They said Bex was her cheery, normal self and everything was super duper kosher dill pickles. Several hours later, all three of them left and allegedly headed back to Devin's cabin. Tracy says that upon arriving there, Bex essentially initiates a threesome by just walking up to Devin and kissing him. And according to Tracy, they all just started fucking like a bunch of barn animals. At one point, Tracy says that both Bex and Devin allegedly head into the bathroom while Tracy remains in the bedroom, I guess. She says she wasn't weirded out at all, but rather happy and excited because she felt this meant that she could now have her cake and eat it too, and beef twas squashed. Now, being that I'm like Bex's best friend and know her so well, I feel like this doesn't sound like Bex at all, just based on obviously her parents and family's accounts and other close friends besides Tracy. The consensus says that this doesn't sound like her. I don't feel like if she was this sad, depressed, emotional person and struggling with her girlfriend having a boyfriend, that she would just suddenly walk up to him and be like, hey dude, wanna fuck? Drunk or not, I feel like that wouldn't happen. To me, it's more likely that she was pressured into this situation or possibly too drunk to comprehend what was happening at the time. Either one would explain later CCTV footage and the last sighting of Bex. But anyway, we'll get to that later. Back to this disjointed-ass alleged threesome. So eventually, Devin exits the bathroom and heads over to Tracy where they start going at it. At which point, Bex exits the bathroom, and according to Tracy, her demeanor suddenly changes. She says that it was like Bex saw them, and it just registered in her brain that while it was okay, it being her and Devin, and her and Tracy, it wasn't okay that it was Devin and Tracy, and she essentially just broke. Again, I feel like Bex was already not okay with him being in the picture, period. So this wasn't news to her when she saw it. I also don't really believe she would have been okay with fucking around with Devin, just her and him. That didn't fit her characteristics and habits, at least from what I found. Tracy's accounts overall just read sloppy to me. I definitely feel like she embellished areas that she felt were kind of grayish and didn't want them to be perceived that way, so she just added some fluff to them. But this threesome eventually gets weird when Bex allegedly sees Tracy and Devin together and breaks, and it's just like, what the fuck am I doing here? What is this shit? She tells Tracy she's going to take a shower and go for a walk, and she asks her to come with her. Tracy's like, nah, dude, I'm beat. I don't want to go for a walk. Bex asks her again, almost insistently, and Tracy tells her, no, I'm going to bed, but asks her, you're coming back, right? And tells her to essentially bolt the door, which means to leave the bolt facing out of the door so that the door doesn't completely shut. That way, whoever's outside can obviously come back in without knocking or needing a key and so on. So Bex bolts the door, and with that, she leaves. Now, the only thing we know certain from this point on is that at 5:45 a.m., Bex places a call on the Disney Wonder in-house phones that only go through to other phones on the ship. We know this because she is caught on CCTV camera on the phone, visibly distraught. At one point, a male crew member comes over, lays his arm over her shoulder, and asks her if she's okay, to which she says, yeah, I'm fine. He subsequently walks away. It is later revealed in an investigative article by John Ronson from The Guardian, that I'll get into later, that Bex had called a mutual friend of hers and Tracy's, who was a crew member as well aboard the ship. This unnamed person was well-versed in the drama that was Bex and Tracy's relationship, and had helped mediate between them in the past. This person basically claimed that the call was Bex venting about her troubled relationship with Tracy and seeking advice or comfort or something of that nature. The caller said that they did their best to reassure Bex that they'd talk about it at a later time when everyone had some free time.